Hi, I'm KatBel, and today I would like to discuss these little sweeties. So this is Joxer, and this little sweetie is Maria. We'll get to her a little bit later. This is my sister's plushie. Our aunt used to go to Vegas all the time. It's like a yearly thing for her. And she would bring back keychains and magnets. And one time she brought back that little, it's like a piggy bank and it's like a slot machine. And you can actually like pull the lever and it spins. And I love that thing. I still have it somewhere at my mom's house, but I love that thing. One of the times she brought back these little things, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember exactly when she got them or where, but I'm pretty sure this was like when they were bringing back Sin City. So it's like, was it mid-90s, something like that. Because it used to be like they were going kid friendly for a bit, and I know like my family used to go for Comdex, which was a computer convention my dad went to every year. So I was going to Vegas like every year when I was little. Like I don't even really remember it super well. But there's pictures of us with like Excalibur with like the dragon, and I remember the wizard, and yeah, it was a different time back then. But yeah, so these were a present from our aunt, and like I said, it was like mid-90s. So Joxer actually got his name from Ted Raimi's character in Xena Warrior Princess, which is like a big fan favorite with me and my sister, the Greek mythology and stuff. And I decided to, since Ted Raimi was going to be at Days of the Dead in Las Vegas, which me and my sister were going to be vending at, I decided to dress him up and take him to meet the person he's basically named after. And it took days of paper macheing and painting to get this look, but it was totally worth it for the look Ted Raimi had when he saw him, where it was like, it looks just like Joxer. I'm like, yes, I worked very hard to make that happen. But yeah, so the darker bits, so the little round, and the back also has the little bit of armor. These are actually tissue paper, so facial tissue paper box that I repurposed. And then this part, the brown part, is some paper strips that came from the paper towels that we use. It's like the Seafold, I think it's called. But they're wrapped in these little paper things to keep them bundled. And so I just used long strips of that and basically weaved them together. It's kind of hard to tell, but you can kind of see in certain parts, especially down here, the weaving texture. And this little bit on his shoulder is also weaved. It's a toilet paper tube, actually, that part. And like I said, it's just days of hot gluing and paper macheing and painting to get this look. Now, the sewing part was pretty easy. There's not really any sewing on Joxer's look, so this seam here is just this part of a t-shirt. So it's literally just like this part of a t-shirt. And then the belt is actually like just the bottom hem of the same t-shirt. And moving on to my plushie Maria. Her look, it's the same shirt, so this is just the bottom of the sleeve. So you can see kind of like this part is this part of the sleeve, and then it's just kind of cut off. And it has the kind of the, not scalloped per se end, but kind of fades this way. Because I was just studying Gabrielle, also Xena, her outfit and how it looked. And I got 2 different greens for the top. And it does continue to the back. It's more of a cape, really, so it doesn't go all the way around, but her arms are just so, not stumpy per se, but she doesn't have very much neck and, you know, torso. She's very short torso, so this just kind of sits on top. And it can come off, so it's not like she's sewn in. This part here is kind of corseted, which is how Gabrielle's top looks in the show. So it kind of has this crissy-cross thing. Mine doesn't have quite as many as hers. Only has 3 holes each side. But it has enough extra string for it to open up enough to get over her head. So I can, you know, change her outfit later. And the skirt was also no-sew. It's just kind of tucked in here. So it's just a hole here, and then just pulled in. This part is glued on in the back. And then it's just stitched right here along this edge. And then, of course, I did kind of sew the little crisscross bit. But it, you know, it's not tied in. So, it's, like I said, it can open up and expand to get this back over her head. Because she's not going to stay in this outfit forever. I do tend to leave her in her little outfits for extended periods. But that's just because I'm older now. I don't play with dolls a lot. Like, sometimes I'll change Lucy Kim's outfit. She's my Cabbage Patch Kid. I've had her forever. But I'll sometimes change her outfits for the season, but I don't really play with them much. They just kind of hang out or are more decorative. So they might just keep these outfits for a bit. And since we're talking about Days of the Dead, I thought it would be prudent to bring up basically how that event went. It was our first event of the year, and it was a disaster. But hey, that's Vegas. You win some, you lose some. So, in a sense, we did Vegas right. One of the things I had tried to do was draw at the table. So, I had seen this thing talking about, like, oh, when you're an artist and you're at an artist alley, market, whatever you're vending at, if you're actually working on a piece while you're at the table, it helps, like, draw customers in, because you're not just waiting there, like, staring. It's like, are they gonna come in? Are they gonna look at my stuff? You know, it kind of scared them away by just staring them down. So I acquired an iPad over, you know, Christmas break and stuff. I've been saving up for this because I wanted to try Procreate. I've seen so many artists using Procreate, and I've been using just free software since I lost my Adobe privileges and stuff. So that's 20 plus years of Adobe experience just down the drain. And I just, with the free software I've been trying to use, it's just not the same, and I've just been struggling. So I've seen so many artists on Procreate, and there's all kinds of tutorials on, like, how to do things, and like that. I need that. And the first thing I made was actually this shirt. So I had seen this thing on how to do, like, the smudge tool to make, like, a track kind of thing. So my first thought was, like, yes, my trusty Shamrock from the episode of Xena when she meets that doppelganger. And I'm pretty sure it was the first doppelganger she meets was Meg. And I forget why the bad guys are trying to replace Xena exactly, especially since Meg doesn't do all the kung fu fighting that Xena does. But there's a part where Xena is pretending to be Meg, pretending to be Xena, and calls her chakram her trusty Shamrock. And they're like, oh, it's not Xena, it's Meg, get her. Except it is Xena, she kicks all their butts. So it's like super funny episode. I love all the episodes when Xena has her doppelganger, or even like Joxer has his twin brother. Like, when they're playing not the character that they usually play, it's always a great time. Anyway, I was, gonna try and do that thing where you work on an art piece while you're vending at a table, and I, for the most part, was by myself. at the table, even though my sister and my cousin were all there for the weekend as well. So my sister was out drumming up business and, just wandering around the event. So I was the one at the table, especially since I'm the one that mostly makes all the art and stuff. So I have the better ability to pitch the different products, and it just kind of works out better that way. And then my cousin, she was mostly there to have a good time. It's her birthday weekend. And she's the one that's super into horror. Like, she's just always been into the spookies. And she was also promoting her thing that she's doing, which is It's the Witching Hour Somewhere, which is on Instagram and recently TikTok. So we're learning how to use the TikTok. And so that's been an adventure in and of itself. And so, like I said, I was just, at the table. All by myself. This is what I was working on. Which is just like my normal cat that I draw. Except this is like my catsona. So it's got the brown hair, brown eyes. And it's just a little sad face because, people weren't coming to my table a lot. Like, we were right across from some of the celebrities, but people weren't really coming to my table, and I was like, people were passing by, and we're kind of like, oh, we just carry on. I'm like, that's fine. Don't like my art. That's fine. I'm not sad. So this is what I made at that time. Because, I was just like, I'm just bored. Like, sometimes people would come up and it's like, we would chat and they wouldn't buy anything. And then I'd be like, oh. But, so it's like, I was just kind of lonely and bored. And I was just doodling and trying to figure out how some of these brushes and stuff worked. Anyway, after the event, when I got home, I decided to update the design. And I got this. So it was like, I wanted snuggles, not struggles. Because, that's how I felt after that weekend. Especially as, I hadn't really been away from my cat for such an extended period. And then, last time we went to Days of the Dead, my mom, who was taking care of the cat, she would send me updates with, pictures and stuff. So it was like, I, didn't really feel like I was missing out. But then the only update she really was sending was that it's like Autumn's not eating his wet food. So it's like the kibble would kind of, slowly disappear, but he wasn't really eating. And the thing is that usually he'll eat kind of when I eat. So I'm not super routine. So he'll just kind of eat at random times, not like a specific set time for him to eat. And so I was just like, oh, I felt all bad. And then when we got back, we were supposed to take him to the vet to get his, yearly shots. So, rabies and everything you need. Whereas, if there's a disaster, you need to go to a shelter. All the things you need to have checked off to let your animal into a shelter. Those shots. And we didn't even get those because when I told them that he wasn't really eating and then he threw up, the day after I got back. And so they decided to do some tests. And he was diagnosed with being full of it. Which he had this problem before, and he was labeled an aggressive animal after the treatment, which is just an enema. So anyone who's ever needed one or has a pet who's needed one and knows how those are administered, he doesn't really like things near, around, or up his backside. So, and this was during COVID, the first time he was diagnosed with being full of it. So I wasn't allowed back with him. So he was extra feisty, because usually I hold him while he gets shots and his temperature read and stuff. So usually he's I'm there with him, and sometimes he growls, but usually he's fine as long as I'm holding him. But because of, COVID procedures and stuff, they were just taking the pets in the back without the owners. So he was like, you know, a little, you know, not comfortable with, you know, people poking around certain private areas. And so they labeled him aggressive. So it's on his crate and it's on his file. And I was like, so embarrassed. I was like, oh my god, what happened? Like, why is he all of a sudden aggressive, you know? He'd been going there for, I think it was like 10 years already at that point when he was labeled aggressive. And at that time, I had sent to the family group chat, it's like, oh, look what they said about my baby. And my cousin, the one who, you know, went to Vegas with us and is into horror, she was like, Autumn, your cat that you put in little outfits, yeah, he willingly puts on, like, hats and shirts and all these, that cat is aggressive? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, that's some nonsense. And I was like, I'm just saying what they put on his crate and the stickers everywhere and it's on his permanent record and stuff. And she sent text to all her friends like, look at this cat. She's like sending pictures of him from Halloween. We were, you know, little outfits and stuff. And she's like, would you think this cat's aggressive? And it's like, no. Like, he's wearing little outfits. Like, how could that cat be aggressive? And it's like, well, he got an enema. I was like, oh, well, there you go right there. I'd be mad, too, if someone's, you know, messing with my private areas and stuff. But, yeah, so Odie has had kidney issues, and his numbers are getting worse and worse, and then he was backed up, and then, so he's on a lot of medications right now, and he had x-rays, and then, oh gosh, he needed an ultrasound, and so they had to shave him, and I keep forgetting, because it's his stomach that they had to shave, so I forget about it, because you don't really see, you know, he's walking on his all fours, so you don't really see his stomach area, but anytime I need to pick him up for something, I was like, what is this? It's so weird feeling, and it looks so strange, because I'm just not used to seeing so much of him. And, yeah, so, poor baby. My mom's like, it'll grow back. I'm like, yeah, but he's, like, bald in the meantime, and it's just a tough time all around for him. And we were planning on doing more events this year, and so out-of-town events are just out. Those are just completely out, because he gets his fluids 3 times a week, and we had tried sliding it, so instead of Friday, we did it Thursday right before we left, and then we switched it back to Monday when we got back, and I don't know if that maybe contributed to his current issues or not, but we had budgeted for certain events for the year, but that was under the assumption that Autumn's level of care was going to remain the same as it was in December. And just this January, we've already exceeded basically his budget. So it's like $2,000 worth of testing and treatments that he's already, and it's only January. It's like, before the trip even happened, and I was, like, struggling to get products I thought people would like and pay money for, you know, I was struggling to get all this stuff done in time for the event, and I was like, you know what, I'm already out of F's to give for the year. You know, behold the barren, you know, the land in which I grow my F's and see that it is barren, and I'm like, it's only January. And that was, like, second week of January when I had that thought, and yeah, so this year has been something. I just keep thinking about, there's like this meme where this lady's saying how it's like, oh my gosh, it's been a terrible year, and it's like, I can't believe we still have 6 months to go, and then her friend's like, it's only January. It's like, what? It's like, yeah, there's 11 more months, and it's like, what? No! Yeah, I feel like that. That's me. That's me right now. So, Yeah, so pretty much events are, this is supposed to be our second year, hopefully making it profitable. We lost out $30 last year, so we're like, oh, $30 isn't bad. So hopefully we'll do better this year, but we barely covered 50% of the table, not including travel and accommodations for the one event we already did. Autumn's being more expensive than we thought, and the vet is talking about, you know, when he stops doing 3 out of 5 things that he really enjoys, maybe, you know, it's time to let him go. And, you know, I know he's not a baby anymore, but he's my baby. And it's just tough, you know? And, like, I had an aunt that had had diabetes, and, you know, she was on dialysis up until the end there. My grandmother also said, gosh, kidney issues just runs through the family. You know, he's not technically related to us, but, you know, it's just tough. And I'm just going to be focusing on the Redbubble, so I'm going to still be making designs, but I'm just going to be putting them up on Redbubble, and hopefully that takes off. I make like 40 cents every couple months, mostly people buying stickers and pins, but, you know, any little bit helps. And, yeah. So this year is, yeah, it's been so, but when you hit rock bottom, only place left to go is up. And I also heard this thing where someone said, you know, hitting rock bottom is fine if you collect rocks, and I do like me some rocks. Like Goblin Brain likes little clickety clackities that they make. So yeah, hopefully the rest of the year looks better, and I'm hoping that Autumn makes it to his next birthday. He's turning 14 this year. So hopefully he'll make it to August. You know? And that's it for this video. See you in the next one. Bye.